most artists complaining about streaming are only collecting on a fraction of their streaming royalties anyway.
But royalty rates, just going back to royalty rates, number one, I don't think they're changing that much anytime soon. So, right. So even if they go up a fraction of a penny or a couple pennies or whatever, that's not going to make 30% more artists now be able to make a living in music.
What's going down? It's the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. My name is DJ Payne 1. He is Dame Ritter. And we are on episode 19. We're officially 19 years old today. We're college freshmen. We're making bad decisions. We're eating things we shouldn't eat. How are you feeling, Dame?
I'm feeling good, man. I just started this 6-week challenge. So the diet is real restrictive. I got to get these stubborn pounds off. So I'm on a very, strict and intense 6-week challenge. So hopefully I see some results in 6 weeks. But
is it a juice diet?
Nah, I have to work out 5 times a week at the gym, and then you have to do weight training 5 times a week on top of the classes, drink a gallon of water every day, and there's probably only 15 things I'm allowed to eat, cut out all sugar, all breads. So as a cat that's used to drinking smoothies on the daily, that part's been tough, but yeah, so my legs are a little sore, but other than that, I'm feeling good.
Damn, you got to cut out all sugar, so no fruits, nothing.
Right, no fruits, all vegetables. For my carbs, I can have sweet potatoes. I just had some oats, protein since I don't eat meat. So I have egg whites and tofu and stuff like that. So it's a very boring diet. That's going to be the toughest part throughout the 6 weeks. But got to get it in, man. I'm getting older. Got to do more to stay the right size.
Well, we're 19 today, so go buy one of those 12 packs of ramen and live your life. We have a lot to talk about. You wanted to respond to some tweets that were sent out at Audio Mac. Shout out to Audio Mac. Shout out to all of our listeners on the Audio Mac platform. There was a tweet. I don't know if it went viral, but there were a lot of responses.
Yeah, it didn't go viral. They put out a question. It was just, what's the most pressing issue in the music industry right now? And it got quite a few responses, and I just wanted to address some of those, get your opinion on some of those. Actually, the comment that's on the top, I believe you know this gentleman. His name is Carl Folks. He's a lawyer. That's your guy, right? Don't you know him?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was not it's not necessarily the top comment, but was the first to respond. So not top in the sense they got the most engagement, but I think he was the first to respond. And he put predatory contracts. Is that something that you would agree with, Payne? Predatory contracts being the most pressing issue in the music industry right now?
No, because they've always been around.
I guess it would be dope maybe to have him on to maybe talk specifically to exactly what he's talking about, because he's a lawyer. So
he has a totally different perspective. I mean, I'm not looking at 10 contracts a day. He is. So if he's looking at it, seeing 60% of them as predatory, then certainly that would be a problem. So I'm speaking for myself. I'm not getting predatory contracts sent to me. If others are, then that's the truth, and that's their truth.
Right. I guess, I would love to have a discussion with him, because I'm always, as you know, I'm always trying to combat the skepticism and the deep, dark Illuminati, veil that hovers over the music industry that has everybody scared. And just that term predatory bothers me. Obviously I think there are contracts out there that aren't fair. But again, he's a lawyer, so I would love to talk to him to exactly what he's talking about. But just that term just continues to beat home the notion that the music industry is the darkest place in the world. And that just hasn't been my experience. And I try to get artists not to think of it that way.
You definitely defend the evils of this business.
I just feel like if you educate yourself, you're not going to have that perspective either.
Can I pause for a minute? I had a great tweet. I don't think you saw it. Not a tweet. Sorry. A YouTube comment. Oh man, this is hilarious. All right. So just read this. This is in response to our podcast on AI. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
I think we talked about industry plants in the episode. That's the episode where everything went wrong because we talked about Illuminati and all this other stuff that you never want to talk about because it gives you a migraine. Here's a comment from J Real Estate. Woody from Drew Hill and many other successful artists talk about satanic rituals that happen from higher ups on the record labels. So I'm not sure if you guys know this and are deceiving the people or if you truly aren't aware, because just look up Drew Hill exposes dark side of music industry. Even Bob Dylan talks about the same thing and so many others. And from an occultist, that part doesn't make sense grammatically. But basically, Dame, it's quite clear that Drew Hill is right and you're wrong, and you're just trying to cover up the satanic rituals that are actually happening behind closed doors with these execs.
That is possible. However, people give artists way too much credit beyond things that are just their music, right? If somebody makes good music, doesn't mean they tell you the truth. It doesn't mean they're knowledgeable about politics. It doesn't mean they know shit about anything other than the fact that you like their music.
No, hell, man.
So the fact that the fact that people put so much stock and trust in artists and somebody you have never met, you don't know, when you turn off the music, you don't know them, and the fact that you put so much trust in these people, it's concerning to me that people, just believe whatever artists say like they know them.
I'm glad you said that, because you worked with a lot of artists. I worked with a lot of artists. I am an artist. Artists say some off the wall stuff. I've said some off the wall stuff. I'm a very dramatic person. I think that's something that we can agree on as an artist community, as a creative community. We're dramatic, and part of our appeal and part of our talent level and our skill set is to make art out of thin air and to make regular things artful. So if we have a bad experience with a label or a person or an ex or anybody, we're gonna color it, and that's why people like us. So
exactly, that's exactly what I talked about a couple podcasts ago with Hobson when he left the show in Fort Collins and made it seem like he was in some abandoned building, and he painted this horrific story around it where after you heard that you would actually have sympathy for him, when the reality was he just left the show. Like, cats got to stop putting so much faith into these artists, and maybe something weird did happen to Woody, right? So maybe Woody was in some room and had a weird experience, and somebody wanted something weird from them. But that's not if that happened as a one-off, or maybe it happens here and there, like, that's not representative of like the music industry. Like, if you go into the Warner building, nobody is sacrificing blood. Nobody's slicing the throats of goats.
They're sacrificing demos. They have a big box.
Yeah, basically. That shit is so weird. And if you believe that kind of stuff, please stop listening to this podcast.
Well, there go half our listeners.
Shit. Well, hey, it's just so weird, man. Anyway, did you want to continue talking about Woody, or did you? Can we go through a couple more of these responses?
Well, let's move on to Cisco. Let's talk about Cisco.
Definitely not.
Okay,
Cisco,
then I guess we got to move on.
Cisco was talented, though. Cisco was
all of them
talented.
are talented. I have no knowledge of this Woody Illuminati occultist thing. Yeah, let's move on.
So another response was not enough promotion services who cater to indie self-publishing artists. How do you feel about that, Payne? Are there enough promotion services that cater to indie self-publishing artists?
Yeah, there are far too many, and the majority of them are scammers. We've talked about that over and over again. I would say, in response to those tweets, because I saw a lot of tweets from artists saying, lack of opportunity due to funding, lack of opportunity due to lack of budget, lack of marketing due to lack of budget for independent artists. And I definitely felt that way when I was starting out, and I was in little rap groups that were mostly local, and I just had it wrong. I knew all about the the musical side, not even all about the musical side. I knew that I loved the music. I knew I was passionate about making the music. I knew that I personalized making the music and performing it. And so, of course, I was going to personalize whether or not the music was successful. And when I read tweets, that there's another tweet from a independent artist saying something to the effect of, I don't get any opportunities. I get overlooked because I'm independent and don't have a budget. It just kind of reminds me of how some of these creep dudes out here talk about women, like the incel community. I don't want to say that word, but you know what I'm talking about. The people who are like, man, you know, these women don't show us any attention. It's not right. It's not right that we're getting overlooked by these women. It's like, they don't owe you anything. Are you serious? So if you're an independent artist and you feel like these big companies and these big publications and big promoters and fans all over the place are overlooking you, there are a million different factors that are all under your control that could be contributing to your lack of exposure. You got to expose yourself, not literally. You have to expose your music. You have to brand. You have to tell your story. And a lot of us don't understand that. We think the music is going to speak for itself, and we think that we're entitled to fame and success and eyes and ears on us. And, you know, the unfortunate reality is that no, we're not. We're competing with other artists. And the second we start focusing on human communication and putting that at the core of our overall marketing and promotion strategy, and we're actually talking to people and making fans the organic way, we're going to care a lot less about major publications giving us shine, because that's not what they do. They post articles that are going to make them money from advertisements. Major radio does the same thing. Pretty much every outlet for major label artists operates the same way, and we don't fit into that.
So yeah, I definitely do not agree with this one. Not enough promotion from services who cater to indie. I don't think people. Well, number one, there are a shitload of artists trying to make a music career, right?
Oh, yeah.
And a fraction of them are going to be successful. I say that all the time. You have access to a platform where you can make a video and distribute it potentially to the entire world. You have a platform where you can speak to your audience anytime you want to via social media or have you. Rewind 15, 20 years ago. If you're complaining about the promotion services available to indies now, like, just think about 20 years ago prior to social media, where you didn't have that opportunity. You have to get out of your house, participate in actual live shows, rap battles, flyers, things like that. There is no shortage of promotion services and promotion tools. You just haven't figured out how to get people's attention, and that's your fucking fault. There are artists every day just turning their camera on themselves and building an audience on these platforms. So that one I definitely do not agree with. So at Rick Wright stuff, nah, definitely don't agree with that one. One that I found was interesting, and it got quite a few likes, and obviously it resonated with me because of Funk Volume, but he said lack of independent record labels to help artists develop. How you feel about that one, Payne?
That goes back to what I just said, which is it's not the responsibility of an independent label to just be some kind of nonprofit artist incubator for anyone that makes music. And that's kind of what that sounds like. It sounds like the sense that that you're entitled to the label's resources, or am I misreading that?
If they sign you, yeah.
They sign you,
it was my hope that, and don't get me wrong, there have been a few independent labels that have emerged since Funk Volume, but I thought that there would be a lot more, right? I don't think people quite properly valued what Funk Volume was from an artist development standpoint, and how quick we got artists. Literally, like with Dizzy, he wasn't making a full-time living as an artist in Vegas when we plucked him out of Vegas, but literally within 6 months he was, right? Is because we had a fan base where you got immediate exposure. We were going on tour, so you got the opportunity to hit the stage right away. We had an audience online, so you got immediate exposure. And then we already kind of had a system for doing merch and everything internally that you just immediately got plugged into. And I thought that there would be more independent like I thought Joey's Pro Era would turn into more of an independent label and more people would have success like coming up under him. I know Logic has recently started, or he started a label a while back. It's gone through some transitions. I just thought we would see more success based off the success of some of the, the newer successful independent artists in turning their platform into an actual label that helped develop under other artists under them. But I haven't seen it to the extent at which I thought it would happen.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would agree that that's the most pressing issue. But I would kind of agree with that. I don't even know if it's. I can't even call it an issue. I just wish there were more platforms. I wish there were more artists that knew how to turn their platforms into a operation that could serve other artists under them.
Sure, I think from my perspective too, artist development these days is not something that you're going to get from a label. And
it's probably not something you should, well, I don't know. They say they're still doing it, and some labels are doing it. Maybe the right mindset is like, you always have to remember that you're going to need to be responsible for your own development.
Yeah.
And any help along the way is awesome. But I still think that's something that a label should help with to some extent.
No, I think they should. I just don't think they do. Anytime I see artists en masse like I am here in this Twitter exchange lamenting that they're not getting resources from external third-party sources that they could be giving themselves, I get a little sad.
So here's the thing about an independent label and why I feel like they're actually better positioned to do A&Rs, because the one thing that an independent label has over a major is like there were fans of Funk Volume, right? Just the label, because the label had more of an identity. It had a strong brand.
True.
Right. And because of that, I think it has a leg over a major because that independent label has the ability to basically introduce you to their fans. And hopefully there's a culture, there's a way they do things that you kind of get sucked into that becomes your new normal. And I really think that independent labels done right are much better positioned from an art. They may not have the resources to spend. They may not be able to hire the best songwriters and to get the best, to get the top Metro Boomin beats and things like that from an artist development standpoint. But I feel like independent labels are more on the ground. They're more hands-on with the artists in terms of touring and things like that. So in terms of really understanding how to move independently, should you continue to be with that label or eventually go back out on your own, you'll learn a lot from that experience if it's a well-run independent label.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you're right.
Oh, bad. I turned off my text, but I guess the phone, the numbers are still coming through. Anyway, as soon as this phone call stops, I'll get to the next one, because so Z from DJ Booth, I think he replied and he said that the most pressing issue was getting royalty. I wish I could bring it up, but getting royalty rates more fair so that more artists can make a living off their music. How do you feel about that?
Well, I know how you feel about it. I mean, I think we all want royalty rates higher, especially right. For streaming. There's no argument there. So the whole royalty system. I was talking about Sound Exchange earlier. I can't stand when people jump on me for stuff that I'm talking about a company over. Stop defending. I know not that Sound Exchange is a nonprofit that was created by the United States government at the federal level, but I think their system is really confusing and none of this stuff is streamlined. So if they were going to do a favor to artists, streamline it somehow. Find some kind of way to unify everything. Find some kind of way to make these royalty rates accessible, find some kind of way to increase them. And I'm frustrated by that system because as a producer, I'm working with a lot of artists that I have partnerships with. I'm a master rights holder, and so I'm entitled to these non-interactive master royalties that Sound Exchange pays out. But Sound Exchange needs a letter of direction from the featured artist. So unlike the PROs, unlike microsyncs, unlike all of these other royalty streams, I can't contact Sound Exchange and say, hey, this is my beat, I should be getting half of this. They have to get a letter of direction signed by the featured artist, not me. So I don't matter. Even if I'm an equal rights holder in the master, if I'm not the featured artist, I can't contact them and say, hey, these are my royalties that I'd like to register for. So yeah, I'm there's a whole Twitter shitstorm going on my feed where a whole bunch of people are saying, well, that's how it is, you idiot. You don't understand. You need a signature from the artist. I understand that. I don't like it. So there's
most people listening probably don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, but they should be mad. Get mad about it because it's annoying.
Because to me, that is a pressing issue, right? Like when you finish a song, there should be one system where you put your song into and you can get all of your, like you put your song into, you put, all of the different writers or whatever. There should be one system that you distribute your music through, and then you just collect all it. I think I know we're far away from that happening, because right now you need to be signed up with Sound Exchange. You got to sign up with a pub admin. You got to sign up with DistroKid, and it's too confusing to most. I mean, it's not the most complex thing in the world, and you should have your shit together in order to understand what's going on, but it should be a lot easier. To me, that might be the most. That along with, just the lack of education in the space. The lack of education in the space is my biggest issue.
Yeah.
And why the Music Entrepreneur Club started, because there's so many people even that work within the music industry that don't know what they're talking about, and definitely aspiring artists and producers and music entrepreneurs that just don't understand, they don't take the time to learn the business. So stepping into a business that you're not prepared to do the education on is just ludicrous to me, and it's part why we have all of these issues in the music industry, in my opinion. But royalty rates, just going back to royalty rates, I have a strong opinion about this. Like, number one, I don't think they're changing that much anytime soon. So even if they go up a fraction of a penny or a couple pennies or whatever, that's not gonna make 30% more artists now be able to make a living in music, right? I think people that are complaining about the royalty rates, and I've said this before, like, they wouldn't have been able to make a living in music in any era. It has nothing to do with streaming. It has to do with your inability to create a fan base and to monetize your platform. And I'm going to search far and wide for this data because, again, I believe that there are more people making a living off their music today than at any point in the history of music. And if I can confirm that, that would let you know that royalty rates is not the most pressing issue, right? Because even if royalty rates are low, we have to look at what it has also done to spread your brand, right? Streaming has allowed global access to your music essentially at no cost. So now people are finding out about you because they have a subscription to Spotify or Deezer or whatever. And that wouldn't have happened before, but now you have the opportunity to build that relationship and sell merch to that person. Tour. Maybe you develop a fan base in India somehow. Your music really resonates with with people in India. Now you have that opportunity. You just have to be a smarter entrepreneur these days to capitalize on all of these different revenue streams and have a brand that resonates with people. So I wouldn't agree with that. And trying to get these royalty rates up is going to be difficult because, again, like we've mentioned before, like Spotify continues to say they're losing money. And as long as that's happening, they're not budging on these rates much.
So what I would add is that, yeah, royalty rates aren't the most pressing issue. For me, the most pressing issue is unifying the royalties process so that artists are actually put in a position or able to put themselves in a position easily to receive those royalties. Right now, as you said, it's incredibly difficult for just a starting artist or even a veteran artist to navigate that the various systems of royalty streams, such that if we're going to talk about streaming, let's be honest, most artists complaining about streaming are only collecting on a fraction of their streaming royalties anyway. They're getting their DistroKid or their CD Baby royalties on the master side, and if they're not signed up for that additional publishing admin wing, they're not getting their mechanicals. And if they're not registering stuff with all of these other agencies, the CMSs that manage micro syncs on YouTube, for example, that's another royalty stream that they're missing out on. So it's just incredibly frustrating, for me as an artist to have gone through the process of realizing that I'm missing out on this money and then having to scramble to sign up for it, and then realizing, oh God, now I missed this other income stream. Now I got to scramble to sign up for that. It's frustrating. There are companies that seek to address this, like Songtrust, but they're on the composition side of the copyright coin. And so if there were just some kind of unified system for everything, that would be an incredible development for artists of all kind, especially independent artists.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And if people aren't familiar with Songtrust and you're not collecting your pub admin, it's a company we have a relationship with. They're not the only service out there, but it's one that we support because we feel like they do good business and they give out a lot of education. So go to Songtrust. They have a lot of videos and stuff where you can start learning about publishing. And if you do sign up with Songtrust, you can use our discount code MEC, which gives you a discount on registration. So there's a plug for Songtrust.
A big discount. Actually, it ends up being $80 one-time fee, and you can actually affiliate with a PRO through Songtrust, which saves you a couple $100, which I wish I had known about years ago, because then I could have referred other artists there and saved them some money.
Yes, sir. All right. I don't know if I want to keep going through more of these, but I thought it was a good question to ask. I'm always curious of what the responses would be. But I think long story short, artists, you have so much at your fingertips. There's a lot of complaining going on, but then on the other side, you have a lot of artists that have started to be successful because they've taken ownership of their career and are starting to do the things they need to do to build a presence. So yeah, interesting question. Shout out Audio Mac for posing that question. And maybe we can get Carl Folks on at some point to talk about the predatory contracts suggestion, because I'd like to learn more about what he's saying. Payne, did you have one more topic you wanted to talk about real quick?
I did. It's a big topic though, so I don't know who started this conversation. I do want to give credit where credit is due, but I think this is a question that I've seen come up time and time again, so there really isn't any one original creator. But posing the question, artists, if you had X amount of dollars as a marketing budget to release your new record, what would you spend that on? And the one that was sent to us was a $500 budget, and I believe it was for 3 to 5 songs. I forget exactly what the number was, but it was for more than one song. The budget is $500. I don't know how deeply I want to get into it now because we're already a half an hour in, but I do want to talk about it next time. And I think it's a great conversation for a number of reasons. I almost think it's a tricky question because there are so many factors that lead up to that moment where you as an artist are pulling the trigger on some kind of marketing campaign for your music. If you have $500, I've seen people spend $5,000 on some kind of campaign to market their music. And if their infrastructure isn't there, if they don't post regularly on social media, if their usernames aren't matching up, if they're not already building a foundation for themselves where they're able to take advantage of every benefit that a $500 or $5,000 music marketing campaign gives them, then that's effectively a waste of money. Or maybe it's not a waste of money, but you're getting a fraction of the value that you would have gotten if you were doing everything else correctly. Now, if I had $500 to promote 3 to 5 songs, what would I do? I would probably cry and try to make more than $500, because realistically, a $500 budget to promote all those songs means you're splitting that $500 down to maybe $150 per song, which is incredibly low. I mean, that's brutal. I'm not saying you can't get a lot done with 500, but I think the question makes us think about our marketing approach in a flawed way.
Right. Yeah. $500 is tough. We'll talk about this next week. But a quick answer off the top is you probably should invest $500 into education, maybe into learning how to shoot your own videos, and then make 3 videos for each song. But this is also an opportunity for a plug for our Monday session, who we're having Circa, who is the founder of Indiepreneur, an organization that I really support because they're always putting out dope content. They got a YouTube page called Full Stack Creative that I think you guys should subscribe to. They also have a podcast called Creative Juice that I think people should listen to in addition to our dope podcast. But essentially on Monday, what I want him to do, because he's an artist as well, and he started a campaign, I think at the top of the year, he was just at like 24 like monthly listeners, something really low, because he wasn't really putting out music. And he's going to talk about over the next few months what he did to go from 24 to like 2,400. And it's just a very realistic thing that a lot of artists can do, right? We're not putting big numbers in front of you like, hey, you can go from 24 to 100 million. Not like, no, this is a very practical process and strategy that he went through using Facebook ads to go from 24 to 2,400 and a lot of engagements on his social. And we're going to walk through that process on Monday night. So if you're listening to this early, either late Sunday or early on Monday, we're going to have that session on the MEC. So sign up, musicentrepreneur.club.com. It's going to be a really dope session. It's really dope. So, I think that's an opportunity to plug that. He spent more than $500. I think he ended up spending like $200 a month, like $240 a month for a few months. But, he got some good results from it. $500 is going to be tough. So that's a tough, I don't ever think that like you should just put your budget into, like, if that's all you have, I would figure out a way to come up with a system, just like Circa did, to like consistently spend on a monthly basis, as opposed to, just putting out one album and hoping and praying it like does something crazy, with your $500 budget.
Yeah, that's how you get burned out, and that's how people get these attitudes of, the music industry is rigged against me. You can't make it out here without millions of dollars. Because, that's what you see time and time again. Somebody might be scrolling through their Facebook, and all of a sudden here comes Facebook saying, hey, boost this post and reach 3,000 people. Yeah, you might be able to reach 3,000 people. Who are those people? What actions are they going to take? And you start spending money on those boosted posts. Eventually, you might end up spending all $500 on boosting posts, and your SoundCloud following goes up by 30 people, and you think, well, that wasn't worth it. I just wasted my money. Yeah, you did waste your money, but that was a decision that you made to put all of your eggs in one basket without really understanding the Facebook system, how to set ads up. They try to make it seem easy, but when you start looking at it more from the back end, and you start looking at split testing, you start looking at audience building, importing audiences, pixels, all of these terms. And if you're not familiar with them, please don't spend money on Facebook ads until you watch all the videos that you can about it. it's a lot more complicated than they make it seem. So yeah, there are tons of, you might get an email the same day that you decide to spend $500 on a marketing campaign from someone saying, hey, for $500, I'll get you a national radio campaign. And then you spend that $500, turns out they're a scammer because no national radio campaign costs $500 and you get burned out. So I don't want to see that happen. On the flip side of that, our good friend Mike Trampy, I believe, spent under $500 on an artist he was working with, who remixed Bad and Bougie in Japanese and actually ended up going viral, as well as signing a deal with Sony in Japan, and is now touring. So small budgets can work. Again, though, it comes down to having the right product, having the right timing, having the right infrastructure, and being intentional with the way you spend that money. Obviously, Mike Trampy's not a scammer, and he knows what he's doing when it comes to ad systems. And we did talk to him about it because he ended up losing his Facebook account over it because of the Bad and Bougie instrumental and the copyright strike system. So he was in Facebook jail for like a year. Now he's out, and he can tell the story about it. But that's why I want to talk about it next time, so we can devote a little more attention to all the fine details of this.
The last thing that I'll say about it is just the mindset is typically wrong. Like I come across a lot of artists that believe that once they drop one piece of content in particular, whether it's a song, whether it's a album or whatever it is, they believe something crazy is going to happen after that. So they don't plan for after that. They put all of their eggs in this basket of whatever this piece of content is, and when they drop it, what they thought was going to happen doesn't happen, and then they're sitting there like, what do I do now? You know, when your thought process should be thinking beyond that next project. How does that project fit into your longer term strategy, right? So anyway, we could talk about it next week.
Cool. That's what we'll do. Appreciate you listening wherever you're listening: Apple Music, Spotify, Audio Mac, YouTube, Stitcher, etc., etc. We'll be back next time. We're gonna be 20 next week. Damn, we're aging fast.
Yep.